Yeah, I just had a question about the new stores. I know that there's only opening a few at a time, but when a new store must cost a lot of money. So have you looked at how long it takes for a new store to be profitable, and is there a lag that in terms of the impact on margins and growth? Can you talk about that? And also, what could they accelerate more than two stores? Doesn't sound like a lot to me.
Well, currently the two-store growth is what they have the cash on hand for. They have about $8 million cash on hand. It costs about $3 million to open a new store. So when they use that, if they go to use that, then they'll be able to open those two new stores. And to answer the second part of your question, it takes about a year for the store to actually start making profit. So they're pretty quick turnarounds for their stores to make profit.
Right, okay.
Just to build a little bit more on that $3 million number, it costs about $2.5 million to build the store, and there's about $500,000 in pre-opening expenses, which includes advertising costs, and then also rent that they have to pay when they own the lease, but the store isn't actually opened yet.
Yeah, and there are quite a few people out there thinking that the growth trajectory for the U.S. is okay, but not great. And what kind of portfolio do you think would be appropriate to have this in? It sounds like a pretty high-risk stock to me, given that if anything happens to the economy, then that's kind of it.
They have some sensitivity to the economy. Really, they're in a strong financial position. They have no debt. They had, as Jeff mentioned, they have about $8 million in cash. They produce about $10 to $11 million in EBITDA per year, and then they have their $6.5 million revolver. So really, they can finance their growth pretty easily.
Have they been? I noticed that 80% of revenues comes from sushi. Have they been serving this since their inception, or has it been introduced at a later stage?
Since the beginning, they had a large percentage of sushi. However, more recently, they have increased the amount.
Okay, so it grew as a percentage.
Yes.
Okay.
It is more profitable to serve sushi and seafood and alcohol, and to receive your revenue from it, as it is low cost, high profit.
Yeah, I'm asking because the name implies, steaks or meat, nothing to do with sushi, and then you have an 80% of revenues coming from sushi. It's as if they have grown this by luck or by chance,
We talked to the current CEO, and he said if there's one thing he would change the name.
Okay.
and also that 80%, a lot of that is seafood and sushi. So sushi is about 20 to 30%.
Okay.
It's still a large component, but it's not 80% either.
Okay.
That is also one of the things that gives us confidence that they'll have greater potential in the future, that as their brand name becomes stronger, more people realize what it is. Once they go to the store and experience the Kona experience, they're able to return and knowing what it is. It really builds their brand experience.
Do they have a loyalty program or something similar?
Yes, they do. They actually have a new one that is run at a very efficient, low cost. It's called Kona Bora, and about 4 or 5 times a year, they introduce new dishes, and then they use customer surveys to decide whether or not to incorporate those dishes into their new menu. Okay. It's been very effective at saving costs and also changing their menu in very productive ways.
Okay.
Just on the economy, you said that they're very dependent on the economy. Because, if the sales drop, then profits do. Have you done any type of stress test of how much the economy has to go down before they start really running into trouble?
Yes, we conducted an economic scenario analysis. For our base case, we used 2% real GDP annualized, and we projected it for the next 5 years. We also looked at unemployment for their target customer. We like to focus more on that, and currently it's sitting at 3.5%. We project it to be at 2.5% in 5 years as well. For the disposable income, we projected it to grow at $1,000 a year for the next 5 years. For the bull case, we assumed we used a similar environment as the 2007 economic situation in the United States, and for the bear case, we used and we projected it for 3 to 4 years. For the bear case, we used a similar environment as 2008.
Right, so it can drop a lot. Right now, all of their restaurants are both profitable and cash flow positive, and they can withstand impacts. Hurricane Sandy that hit the Northeast stores pretty hard, and they were still profitable, and they really didn't have any issues. And so barring any sort of large financial crisis or recession, the stores, at least that they have now, are really in a strong position.
What's the, out of the employed pool, what's the percentage of their target clients out of the employed people in the States? It's like, is this the profile you have set for their targeted customers? Is this the average of the employed in the States, for example?
So, for example, if we look at the United States, 30% of households in the U.S. earn over $75,000. They have over $75,000 of income. So, with pent-up demand and the economy recovering, pent-up demand should decrease, and it should provide them with higher sales and revenues.
Kona's customers are middle class, upper middle class, a little wealthier. That's not the average, but they're really focused on pockets of wealth.
Okay.
When I listen to your presentation, it sounds like it's sort of a macro play and a little bit of a bet on management. Is there anything in there that makes this business sort of unique compared to its competitors?
Can you repeat the last part of your question, please?
Like this is a very macro sensitive business, okay?
Yeah.
And your scenario is a recovery, slow recovery in the economy. And this is really a business which management is very important in, and you're betting on extremely good execution. But is there anything special about this business that gives us some advantage versus other players in quite a commoditized industry?
Yeah. What gives Kona their strategic benefit over its competitors is the 4-day part that they use to generate additional business. So there's always a good reason to go to Kona Grill. You can go there for lunch. You can go there to meet with friends for drinks. And you can go there for a very nice dinner to sit down. You can also go there if you're into sushi. Sushi is also in one of those rising trends. So it's that multi-day part that has actually allowed them to keep very high margins and be strategically advantageous to its competitors. And what gave us really good confidence in this is the customer experience that we had when we went there. We had great customer service when we went there. We had really good food. I highly recommend the macadamia nut chicken. It's excellent. That was the best part of our management assessment, was getting to go and eat the food. And then we also had very high employee contact. So, for example, the chef came out and asked us, "How was your meal? Was there anything that could have made your experience better?" That to us shows us that management is being effective at getting their systems to transfer into that customer experience. And so that gives us confidence that management actually is executing, whereas most restaurants, at least in the United States, especially big box restaurants, don't seem to have that personal touch that makes you feel like I'm in somebody's home having a meal. And we really felt that there.
Also, if we look at we conducted more research on this, and we looked at it more from, I'm sure you guys are familiar with the website, with the social website Yelp. It lets customers review each restaurant, and you can see Kona Grills reviews are very comparable and better than many of their other competitors.
In terms of sensitivity, have you considered, or how sensitive is your model or your DCF model to changes in the discount rate, for example?
With our DCF, we used the baseball bear case, and we have that in there. We have the employees taking about 1% cost of labor and everything like that. So we've accounted for many things in that model, and we feel that the projections for that, using those bull case sensitivity analysis, will give it the rise and the potential increase in Kona's price target.
Right. The exact numbers, it's about 7 to 12%, depending on how far out you go, for each percentage increase, so every 100 basis point change.
Okay.
What sort of margins or returns on capital does the business make?
Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
Margins and returns on capital.
So currently on their margins is about 11%. They produce